you hear me okay?
Sorry, I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, can you hear me now? Nada?
Now I heard that.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, okay, I can hear you.
Oh, beautiful. How have you been?
I'm doing good, how are you?
Good.
Good, thank you for your flexibility there. I'm so sorry about Monday or Sunday, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
Have you been working today?
Yes, I was working for part of the day.
Nice. Do you
Yeah.
get to be outside or is
What's
it
that?
from home? Do you get to be outside or is it from home?
It's mostly from home. I do travel to nearby towns, but it's just 2 to 3 times a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice when I do travel. I do travel a lot less now, but it's mostly from home.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that you chose 7 o'clock to do this. 7 o'clock specifically is like the noisiest time in Vancouver at the moment.
Is it?
As soon as it hits 7, everybody's out on their balconies, like banging pots and pans and making loads of noise. And like,
Oh, it's the thing right now.
yeah. Do they do that around? Where are you?
I'm in Kamloops, and I did not know what that was. But the other day I was on a Zoom call with a friend of mine, and she's like, "That's what she said." She's like, "At 7 p.m. I have to go and bang pots and pans." I thought she was cooking. I didn't realize she's actually banging pots and pans. That's funny. So it's just like a support thing for what's going on right now in the world, kind of thing.
Yeah, for all of the frontline workers. I believe it started like really close to the hospital. People who lived like with a view of the hospital would just go out and start making loads of noise from. And it's just like it's taken over everywhere.
Got
Everywhere.
it.
I feel kind of bad for not getting involved in it.
Well, it happens every day, so you'll have another chance tomorrow.
Yeah, I always seem to be starting something at like 7 o'clock every day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to adjust some things.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, what do you do?
What do I do? That's a good question. So my passion is coaching, and that I'm building my coaching practice on the side. I've been actively building my practice for about, I would say, 5 months now. I've been in the coaching world for a few years, but actively building a practice just for a few months. And what I do for work is a sales representative for a natural supplement company. And I've been in the supplement world for 3 years now. And it's something I'm really passionate about as well.
You take a ton of supplements.
Do I take supplements?
Yeah.
Sometimes I go through phases. When I first got started in the industry, I was on the retail side of things, and so you get a lot of training with a lot of sales representatives about their brand and their company. And when I was first getting all these trainings, I bought everything under the sun. I'm like, I need this and I need that. Oh my gosh, I need this or I'm gonna die. And it took a lot for a while, and then it just kind of died down. And I go through phases. I kind of listen to my body with that. Sometimes, I'm gonna take supplements for a few weeks or a few months, and I just totally forget for a few months. And
Yeah.
I think a balanced diet is is first and foremost what is needed.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
do you take any at the moment? Are you taking anything at the moment?
No, I don't. And when this whole thing exploded with Corona, I took out I had a supplement bag that's pretty big, and I took everything out. And I told my partner, I'm like, every day you take 2 of this, 3 of that, 3 of that. And I didn't take any. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I used to very rarely take any. I didn't like. I used to have a really weird reaction to medicine, and I would get like these hives all over my head that became really itchy, like really big red lumps everywhere from stuff that you get over the counter, like ibuprofen and the different forms of those like painkillers and stuff. So I stopped taking anything at like 20, 21 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
I was really scared to try putting anything into my body, just in case it has a really weird reaction. Because for some reason, I don't like going to the doctor. I don't like going to visit like those types of places where you have to get checked for stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I going to do if I take something and I have a weird reaction and I have to go and see someone? And the thing they give me makes it even worse. I don't know. So I got kind of freaked out. But I started to experiment with whole food supplements, first of all.
Yeah.
And now I just take like a multivitamin, some mushroom mixtures with like lion's mane and cordyceps and turkey's tail and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has any effect.
Yeah.
I have no idea. And it, like, how would you ever tell, unless you keep very detailed accounts of the way that you feel, or say, for example, something like lion's mane, which is supposed to be related to neurogenesis, right? It's supposed to help build those neural networks. How would you, unless you have access to your own like neural imaging hardware, how would you ever know?
Yeah, I think it depends. Like, for me myself, there's never been a supplement except for one, which was a probiotic where I literally felt a really significant difference.
Yeah.
But I've been in that work for a long time. I know people who struggle with different conditions, that supplements really do make a difference for them. And that's the only thing that is keeping them from being on any kind of medication or pharmaceuticals. So for me myself, there was one time where I was struggling with like digestive issues, and there's this supplement that I took, a probiotic, that was night and day for me, made a difference. But out of all these supplements that I've taken over the past 4 years, which is a lot, there's been the only one that's really ever made a significant difference that I could feel. I'm sure it's doing things from the inside, but that I could feel on me, like that I could really notice. Yeah, not that many.
Do you know why particularly that supplement made such a difference for you?
Can you repeat the question, sorry?
Do you know why that particular supplement made such a difference for you?
Well, I think I was in a severe dysbiosis, so I had like a severe imbalance of good bacteria in my gut, which is why I was experiencing all of these digestive issues. And this supplement is a very high quality probiotic where it's a funny story. So the supplements are manufactured and created in Japan, in these big batches full of non-GMO fruits and vegetables. And those fruits and vegetables are fermented for 3 to 5 years and Mozart is playing in the warehouse 24/7 for bacteria. Yeah, so I mean, what made the supplement really good, I think, is because it was fermented for such a long time. But it's a company that really takes care of their supplements, and they're very passionate, and to the point they literally play Mozart to the bacteria, like 3 to 5 years. So.
I think that would start to feel a little bit like torture for me. I'd really enjoy it for a while, but 3 to 5 years, I'd start going crazy.
That's hilarious, yeah. You just start like trying to choke on a piece of vegetable or something. You're like, I can't take it anymore.
So how closely do you work with people to help them adjust what supplements that they take or adjust their nutrition?
Yeah, well, I've worked with people on like as a nutritionist, so I've done like nutrition plans with supplements and that kind of stuff. I never built that practice big enough that it was what I was doing full time. It was kind of like whenever somebody needed it, but I was never really active at building that practice. So I did have some experience with that. With supplements, I started on the retail end of things. So when I graduated from school, I got hired to work as like a wellness advisor for a health food store in the supplement section. Okay. And then I did that for a while, and then it turned into like management and marketing a little bit, which was a lot less of helping people and a lot more of other things. Right, and now as a sales representative, it's sales at the end of the day. So I mean, the company that I work for is absolutely amazing, and the amount of feedback that I get from success stories from people is great and overwhelming, because it is a really good company. But I'm at the end of the day, I'm in sales. I'm not actually the one, like one-on-one helping people with supplements and what to take and how. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
But you want to be one-on-one with people, right? You want to work very closely with people.
Yes. That is what I'm passionate about for sure. And that's and I mean through all the years of nutrition that I've done, what I like the most is being the one-on-one with people and really helping them for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you do in terms of coaching people? Do you coach them one-on-one or you coach groups?
One-on-one mostly. I've recently started doing groups because I used to put on workshops in person, which when everything closed down, that wasn't possible anymore, and I moved them online. And online, I find that people are a lot more open to sharing and yeah, just sharing and speaking up and stuff about what they're going through. And
That's
so
really interesting that people are so much more open
yeah,
to do it in a virtual sense. It
it
must
really is.
feel so much safer just sitting behind their computer or behind their device and
Yeah.
not feeling like somebody's eyes looking into yours. Or as soon as you're around people, you start to believe that people can see more of you than they really can, right? So it's really nice that that's changed the way that you work, essentially. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it is interesting to see the shift in people as well, right? From like I've noticed some people wanting to share things in a group setting when it was in person, and kind of holding themselves back, which I have found wasn't as present in an online space. But then again, I can't, I don't have that same contact with people as well in the online space. I can't see somebody trying to say something and then
Yeah.
so it is definitely different, but I have found that more people are comfortable sharing online, which has put me in the position of doing like coaching in a group setting. I apologize about my cat. I'm just gonna open the door for him and I'll be right back. Been going on the balcony. He's not an outside cat, and lately he's been really loving the balcony. And so there's like a stone wall, and then on top there's like just like a I forget the word. Anyways, like holes, I guess. and he goes up on the top, and he's a meower. He meows really loud, and I'm on the first floor of an apartment building, and so he jumps on the stone wall and he meows so loud at people walking by.
It's literally just cat calling.
What's that?
It's just cat calling.
Yes, totally. Absolutely, yeah.
Maybe with the groups of people, when people want to speak up, they could have like a little sign or like a little ping on their screen, or they just hold up like a little, I don't know, like a poster or something to say that they want to speak.
Oh, they can like raise their hand or whatever. Yeah.
You can make some really funny like paddles or little signage. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah, totally.
Are you missing working with people like face to face?
As a coach, I've never really worked with people face to face.
Okay.
I do with friends and family, but since I've started building my business, it's been on Zoom or over the phone mostly. Yeah, which I really like because I want that freedom as well to be able to work from anywhere. But I do find there is a difference. Like if I'm able to work face to face with somebody, I always will. But most of the clients that I've met were online and then word of mouth, right? But if I meet people online and then it's word of mouth, it's never really in my area. So I do find that there's more of an impact because again, there is something different about being face to face with somebody and having that connection and like looking somebody in the eyes. There's something very different about that. But my coaching has been mainly online or over the phone.
So who are your clients and what do you do for them?
Yeah, so the bulk of I love to work with entrepreneurs. That's my ideal clients. I say ideal clients, but my bigger end goal as a coach is really to be able to reconnect people to their power and have people experience mental and emotional freedom. So to whatever capacity that is, I try to do that with, of course, anybody and in whatever way that I can. Now and it's been confusing because when you enter the business aspect of things, you hear so many things from, you know, online workshops and business coaches and other, like, you know, people who are in the world, who are in this world, who are telling you, like, you should know who your ideal client is, and you should, like, have a target audience and all that kind of stuff that I never really thought about. So thinking about that, I love to work with entrepreneurs, but also I'm like, I love to work with anybody. So I'm in this kind of weird space where I'm like, I feel like I should really zone in a niche, but at the same time, like, why? Because I could be touching, you know, so many other people that I wouldn't even be in contact with or see if I was so focused on this, like, only entrepreneur kind of, like, path, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, you almost feel like you're missing out on a whole world of people that you could work with, right?
Yeah, or not even missing out, yes, but also, like, um, if my mission is to connect people to their power, then why should it be limited to just, like, one avenue? Then what am I, if my services are limited to only one avenue, then what are my intentions? Because if my intention are purely to reconnect people to their power, then it should be all that it is, right? And nothing else should matter, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But again, I'm very new to the business aspect of things in business world, so I don't know if that's just too idealistic, or I'm kind of juggling with that right now, anyways.
I mean, you do have to start by identifying who you want to target, right? Otherwise, you're going to miss everybody, especially in the early days.
Yeah.
If you're not very precise about who your target audience is, how are you going to get anybody to come on board? If somebody looks at it and feels like it's way too general, then they feel like the person who leads it is too general and maybe not able to help me in particular, you know?
Yeah, I totally get that. And I feel like with coaching, it's a bit different. Because again, if my goal is to reconnect people to their power, then that should apply to a busy single mom of 3, or, you know, or somebody who's trying to, like, change careers and reinvent themselves, or whatever. It could be anybody, really, right? So yeah, so I'm really juggling with that right now. Again, I'm very new at building a business, so it's still yeah, something I'm grappling with.
So how are you finding these people at the moment? How do you reach out to these people?
Networking mostly is how I've been able to connect with people. And I mean, I've been networking for the past 3 or 4 years, and I've made some wonderful connections. Some people, you know, became my, like, small percentage I was able to create clients through, and then others just have made really wonderful connections with. Other people I've collaborated with. Through workshops as well, I was able to create some clients. And then people who, you know, even sometimes I connect with somebody and it's not a match for them to become my client, but they're like, hey, you know what, like, what you do could really fit for my sister, my cousin, or my friend, or whatever. And then just, like, connections that way.
And when you say connect somebody to their power, what does that mean to you?
So to me, empowerment is, at the core of it, taking full and complete responsibility for yourself and your life and who you are. So anytime that you say, or anytime that you blame your circumstances or other people for who you are and the circumstances of your life, you're also placing your power there. So to me, reconnecting people to their power is helping them grab the power wherever they've been putting it, which is also blaming your parents and your past for your shortcomings and everything under the sun. Grabbing that power back from where you placed it, back to where it belongs, which is within you, right? So as, like, a broad example, actually, as a personal example, for many, many years, I had a lot of anger towards my mom. And in my head, I was like, the reason I am this way, the reason I can't deal with conflict properly is because I was brought up this way because of my mom. And through the work that I was doing, through being coached, and through the world that I was in of coaching, I realized that me placing the blame somewhere else was actually a way for me to avoid responsibility for myself in my life. Where like if somebody else is responsible and it's not my fault, then there's nothing I can do about it. And magically, I'm not responsible for any of it, right? So reconnecting people to their power is having them understand that they do have the power to be and do anything that they want in life. I do have the power not to be angry anymore about my past or my mom, and I do have the power to actually be whoever I want to be and create my future as a future that's created and not a default future from past events and experiences and whatever else it is for me.
Yeah. How have you found people's reception to that? Have you found it difficult to kind of open people's eyes to that being the way to move forward?
It really depends. It really depends where people are at on their journey. It really depends what people are the work that they're willing to do, and just really where they're at. Some people are like, they're ready. They've hit a point and they're like, man, like I'm ready to take control back of my life and I'm ready to create the life and the future that I want. And those people I find a lot more open to hearing certain things and have more ability to look deeper within themselves. And some other people are not in that point yet, and they know they want something, but it's still very like muddy waters, if that makes sense. And they're still not very clear on what that is or exactly what they want. And so it really, really depends on where people are at in life, I find.
What do you do with those people who are in muddy waters?
I just meet them where they're at. Like something that is really important for me to remember for myself is that there's nowhere to get to, right? Like I used to be very much in that mode of like, I need to figure myself out. I need to figure this out. I need to like get to a certain place, and being able to remember that there's nothing to figure out and there's nothing that I need to be really helps me be with where I'm at and being accepting of this is what it is. And there's nothing else. Like this is what is so. There's no shoulds or shouldn'ts about the way that I am or about the way that my life is. Right. And so being able to do that with other people and just meet them where they're at, and slowly chip away at whatever it is that they want to do, and really being able to listen to what they need and what they want in the moment, and not as a coach think, well, they should think this way, or they should be a certain way, or they should do these things. That's just my filters. It's not reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does the work look like that you do with people? How do you get people to, like, how do you get some people to kind of move towards opening their mind to that? Or how do you get people to actually incorporate that idea into their behavior?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's something that I'm really working on right now, actually, as a coach, is understanding that I'm not the one who's making them do anything. And I'm really just a vessel that's helping them just figure their excuse my French, but figure their shit out wherever they're at. So it's just really being able to listen on, there's a book that I love, it's called Coactive Coaching, and they talk about the 3 levels of listening. So level 1 is listening at a level where it's kind of all about you. As you're hearing people talk, all you can think about is, how am I coming across? How can I help them? How are they finding me helpful? It's all about you, how you're coming across, how you're helping, and you're really in your own world in that level of listening. And then there's listening at level 2, which is really listening with like an open curiosity. Like, oh, that's interesting you're saying that, and really being openly curious about whatever they're going through. And then listening at level 3, which is something I'm really working on, is really listening with a level of intuition. So it's listening at level 2 plus another level of intuition on top of that, which is something I'm personally working on right now. But so really practicing with anybody listening at level 2 as opposed to level 1, which is like, how can I help them? How can I be the coach that they need to be? Which there's nothing wrong with thinking that. But if you're thinking that in the conversation, then you're not actually in the conversation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I forget the question you even asked, to be honest.
How you help people integrate that idea into their behavior.
Oh yes.
But I think it's a good point that book makes, and that you're trying to incorporate that into your own behavior. because I think that's where, as a coach anyway, as say a mentor or even a friend or somebody that you look up to, a peer, the way that they are, the way that they're dealing with their life is like experiential evidence of how people can be, right? And if you're in communication with somebody and you're constantly, if you're always in your mind, you're always thinking about how you're coming across, then that person on a subconscious level knows that you're not really there. They might not be aware that they know this, but their being knows it somehow. Your mind knows it, your brain knows it. And if you're then obviously like trying to figure out how to interact with this person, how to help them, what you can do to help, or how you can like guide the conversation, then they intrinsically know that you're more there. You're still kind of in your head as well. You're trying to do both. And I think that level 3 of the intuition is more of the feeling that someone has, that all of these words are stemming from. Because I mean, it's when I speak, and if I speak about how I feel, and if I speak about my experiences, I don't always, I struggle to speak. I struggle to verbalize things in the way that I think about them, in a sense, because there's not a lot of wording in my thought. It's more of like a picture, an image, or just an atmosphere. To translate that into a verbal language is really difficult for me, and I'll often like pause for long periods of time mid-conversation or mid-sentence, just searching for like the perfect word, the most concise way to convey that message. But if somebody can sense that feeling, if they can be empathetic enough to actually sense the way that I feel, and they provide some like evidence, subconscious evidence that they are feeling what I'm feeling and they understand that, I always find I have much deeper relationships with those kinds of people. And just that type of relationship in itself is really healing.
So like, you mean being able to put into words things that you might not even be able to, is that what you mean?
Well, no, I don't think we have the language. I don't think we have the conscious language to actually describe the way that we feel. We're just trying to describe the way that we feel all the time. But we can intuitively understand the way each other feels, because we can feel the same things. And when you have this recognition that this other person is understanding how you feel, it just gives a better platform for that communication to be understood, because you can kind of fill in each other's gaps because you've given that understanding. You know it's there.
Oh yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, definitely.
So the question was how you help people integrate that idea into their actual behavior, into their like daily behavior.
Right, so take it from in their mind to in their lives, kind of thing. Is that the question? Yeah. So again, meeting people where they're at and whatever they're willing to do, something that I really like to ask and implement in my coaching sessions is when they have an insight, or when they've discovered a reason why they've been behaving a certain way, or just when they've had like a breakthrough in some area of life. I always invite an action, right? So I always usually ask, what is an unreasonable action that you can take to be able to solidify whatever you've discovered? When I say unreasonable, I don't mean like something that's unreasonable on a society, or like on a law, like legal standpoint. I just mean something that's unreasonable with that person, something that they wouldn't usually, an action they wouldn't actually usually take, or something that's outside of what they're used to. That kind of snaps them out of the patterns that they've been in for a very long time. And then again, it's being able to meet them where they're at and what they're willing to do, right? So if they say, if all they're ready for is like this baby step, and what I see for them is this big step, I'm not going to push that. I'm going to meet them where they're at. And sometimes what I suggest is like a certain step, and they're like, I'm ready to do that. I'm like, okay, great. go and do that, right? But it really depends.
So what kind of results, in a sense, have you found that people get from the work with you?
So I found that, I mean, again, it really depends on the person, what they're up to, and what they're, how deep they're willing to dig and what they're willing to do. But I find that the general process that seems to be pretty general with a lot of people is, first comes understanding. So what has them be a certain way, and what had them behave and react in the way that they've been reacting, and things that they've been doing for such a long time. Get them to a point of understanding. And sometimes it's a conversation around the nature of what it is to be human. Sometimes it's something more personal about what they've gone through in their lives. So first comes understanding. After understanding usually comes peace of mind. Like, oh my gosh, there's actually nothing wrong with me. Like, this happens to like so many people, and or I've been behaving this way because of this and this and that. Like, there's actually nothing wrong with me, and I'm actually a very logical human being, right? And then from that, this usually gets solidified through actions. So first come understanding, then peace of mind, then solidification through action. And usually the actions that you take, along with the peace of mind that you have, creates certain results in your life, whatever you're trying to accomplish.
And what is it that motivates you to do this with people?
I honestly could not tell you. Like, there's like when I was introduced to coaching, and when I got into that world, just something kind of went off in my head, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. It's not even like, I don't know what it is. Like, and I think we chatted about this in our first conversation. I could be doing this work for 12 hours a day and be energized from it, right? So again, you were talking about not being able to put certain feelings into words. I could not even explain why it energizes me so much, or why I do it. I love it, and it's something that energizes me, and it's something I choose to do on, like, when I have nothing to do. This is what I choose to do, you know, like, working on that. So that's the only explanation I have around it.
So I guess a better question might have been, how does it make you feel to do this with people?
Yeah, how does it make me feel? Yeah, totally energized and pumped, and like it's my small way of contributing to a better world.
Yeah, it's amazing to be able to do something that allows you to feel that way.
Yes.
It's really
Yes.
powerful.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what you're doing for people. You're kind of guiding them towards accessing that same feeling, to feel like everything, or the things that you do with your life, what you spend your time on, what you spend your energy on, you feel like is contributing somehow, helping people to find like purpose and meaning in everything that they do. It must be really powerful.
Yeah, and as you're chatting, what's coming up for me is, I know it was a journey of mine for a long time, like, really trying to find out what I was meant to do, and trying to find a purpose. And I actually went into the coaching world. My first, like, personal development workshop that I did, I went into it with the intention of trying to find out what I wanted to do, and what my purpose was in the world. That's something that's very, like, personal to me as well, because I went through that, and I know everybody does, right? But I find that usually people find purpose in something that's really meaningful to them, because they've gone through it, or because it's something that was a big part of their lives, and that's how they like to contribute to the world.
So how did you move towards, like, taking coaching courses or getting certified as a coach? What initially led you down that path?
Yeah, funny story. So years ago, I was really into, I was partying a lot. I was really into that scene. Like, I'd be at parties 3 times a week. I drank a lot, and I was all about that life, as some people are at some point in their lives. And as many people find out, it's a very empty empty purpose, empty thing to kind of, pursue.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for something else. I was looking for, again, my purpose, like, what I was meant to do. And I ended up joining a multi-level marketing company for about a year and a half, called Worldwide. And they're affiliated with Amway. It was all multi-level marketing. I had no knowledge of that when I first entered. And through it, what was most powerful, what I learned through it is they had a very intensive personal development program, and that combined with the actions that I had to take that were totally outside of my comfort zone, which was like literally going out to talk to people about the MLM that I was a part of and that they should join, which was like totally outside of what I was comfortable with, right? And anything that I had ever known. But what I have found out is that like personal development combined with action that pushes you outside of your comfort zone creates results, right? And that was like my little formula that I had. And so I had discovered that. And then the multi-level marketing company didn't work out for many reasons. And I stepped out of it. But I was like a dog with a bone. I was like, I figured out something that I know works. Now I just need something that I can apply that to. Because right now, I'm like, again, I'm kind of like back to ground zero. Like I thought I had found my purpose. I thought I had found what I wanted to do. And now I'm back to like, what the heck am I going to do? I can feel that potential. I can feel that I'm meant to do something. I just don't know what that is. And so I reached out to a woman I used to work for. I was nannying her children a few years back, and we became really good friends. And she's a coach. And so I kind of was telling her what I was going through, and she told me about a company who does personal development boot camps. The company is called Landmark. Ageless, amazing company. And so I ended up taking their courses. And through their courses, the first course that I took, which is the Landmark Forum, I really experienced a fundamental shift in who I perceived myself to be at the time.
Wow.
Like my personality, whoever I thought that I was, I totally experienced a shift in that was permanent, right?
What does that feel like?
It feels like a fog lifts over your mind. It feels like you now have access to something that you never had access to before, right? It feels like somebody like shines a light in a dark corner of your mind, and you're like, oh, this was there the whole time. Right?
That's a great advert for Landmark.
Yeah, totally. And I totally realized, I'm like, man, like, I don't know, something went off in my mind, and it's not like it was instant. I remember having a conversation with the group of people that I was with, and I was like, I think I'm going to be a coach. And they're like, yeah, you should totally do that. And I was like, yeah. And then it took me like weeks and months to like be like, am I really going to do that? Am I meant for this? Like, so it was a slow process, but it's at that point that I realized that that's what I wanted to do.
How do you deal with the self-doubt?
That's a good question. I think nobody's exempt from it. I deal with it every day. I was dealing with it today. I think it's part of the human experience. And I think it's important to understand that it is part of the human experience. It's very easy for me and for a lot of people to just go into the like, man, what's wrong with me? Like, I shouldn't be feeling these things. And this feeling of not good enough is not going away. It shouldn't be this way. And really be caught up in the shoulds and shouldn'ts of how life should be, which really takes you away from your experience of right now. And I think practicing being able to not attach your self-worth to the thoughts that you have, and just simply notice, hey, you know what? I feel like a total loser right now. And it is what it is. Yeah. And being able to take away that emotion from it really helps you, just take off of that emotional load that's like totally weighing on your shoulders, and understand that everybody goes through it, and that it doesn't mean anything about who you are as a person.
Yeah.
But I think it is a practice. And even like as somebody who I talk like I've been living for 20 years. I mean, I've been in this world for like just a few years. But even as somebody who's been practicing not attaching self-worth and emotions to thoughts that come up, I still get caught up in it very often, right? And it's just being able to catch myself in that, like, oh man, I was really caught in my drama there of like, I'm a loser who won't ever amount to anything in life, right? And being able to readjust to whatever you're up to in life. Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good thing to do, but I give that voice, that self-doubt voice, I've given him a name in my mind.
That's awesome.
So every time that like articulatory loop comes on, I just go, "Hey Johnny," I call him Johnny, and I'm just like, "Right now I don't want to talk to you, bro. I'll get back to you later on." If I'm conscious enough, then I'll do that and I'll laugh about it. So
Yeah.
it just puts me in a better mood because I just laugh at this other thing in my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I feel like there are difficulty levels. It never really ends. You always just kind of build up your resilience to things.
Yeah.
And like a little trick, like giving it a name, um, it allows you to get to a certain place. But then at some point, you find yourself in a situation which you haven't been in, you haven't experienced before, and it's completely new to you. So you kind of fall back on your older habits and thought patterns to be like, okay, I need help from everybody here. Everybody inside my mind come together and help me out in this situation. And
Yeah.
that's when you've broken down those processes that you've built in place, and it just, that difficulty level of dealing with that situation's increased, right? So I feel
Yeah.
like it's not something you can ever like complete personal development, right? You can never complete these
Yeah. I'm
things.
done.
I got my certificate. Yeah, you just keep going, and I think the main thing is to not beat yourself up about the times where you didn't do very well. Like if you kind of fell into that self-doubt and you let it perpetuate for a long time, and then say the next day you're like, shit, like why did I allow that to take over? Why did I let that happen? You know, you're kind of reinforcing it by doing that.
That is very true. It's like this vicious cycle that just keeps going, right? Yeah. And I love what you said about the voice like the name that you give your voice. I think it's something that I want to implement for myself. And it's funny. No, it's true. I was having a conversation with that woman I was telling you about who told me about the personal development boot camps. And she was telling me about that. She's like, oh, yeah, I give them names. And she was like, I have one that's like this entitled unicorn. And she's this entitled unicorn lady who's like, you're better than that. Or like, you're better than this person or whatever. And she says the same thing. She's like, not today. Totally. I love that. That's really good.
Yeah, I think there's also a lot of value in having people that you can share that with, and not having to hide that. It's like having people that you can share those thoughts with, because you do have those thoughts, and like any kind of thought can pass through your mind, and it's not necessarily you. Like they're just things that pass through you, but and they can pass through anybody. So being around a group of people who you can trust not to judge you because those thoughts pass through your mind, I think is also really powerful.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're witnessing with working with the groups now?
Yeah, totally. Like I know sometimes after my workshop there's like sharing circles that happen. And those are really powerful, and it's really, really cool to see, people being in that space of like no judgment, and whatever comes up, it's about sharing. And it's not about trying to fix a problem. It's not about trying to figure things out. It's just about being able to share yourself and whatever you're going through. And there's nothing more to it. And I find that aspect of community, definitely, I know what it does for me, and I've heard what it does for other people as well. And I think it's really, really powerful, just being able to be part of a group and be able to share yourself no matter what that is, without having the feeling like, I don't know, any expectations or like things should be fixed. It's just the way it is, just what I'm going through, nothing else to it. I think that's super powerful. Yeah, definitely.
Are the groups consistent, or are they like drop in, or is it set each time with each group of people?
No, it's very different. I mean, I have a small email list, and then I'm on Meetup as well. So I have 2 different Meetup groups where I'm able to post my workshops and stuff. But even though I post to the same people all the time, I find that it's always different people. that show up aside from like my really good friends. Usually there's always my little sister or like my really good friends in photography. They're always there.
That's great. So they get involved with your work as well.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, it's really cool. They're my biggest fans. I've had workshops with like 3 people showing up, and 2, like one is my little sister and my other one is like my best friend. Yeah.
That's really amazing. I couldn't imagine I have 2 brothers. I couldn't imagine them joining me in a similar sense.
Oh yeah.
I feel like it's something that they would benefit from immensely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be hilarious for me. I get to see their faces and watch them squirm. But yeah, that's really nice that you have a family that you can do that with, friends that you can do that with.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And being in that world, you meet people who are really into that kind of stuff, and but yes, I'm really lucky that way.
So how do you have an idea of how you want to move forward with what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I have a few things. I have a few things cooking, like my coach would say. I have a few things on the stove. So I love doing workshops. I love like creating content. I love writing. So something that my partner and I are creating right now is he's had his own digital marketing agency for a few years. And he really wants to pass that knowledge forward to other people. So how to build your own agency and digital marketing and sales and that kind of stuff. And so we're creating a course together where he's, putting together the content for digital marketing and how to build your own agency. And I'm doing the mindset portion of things. So all about like self-sabotage, resilience, goals, habits, patterns, that kind of stuff. And I love the idea of creating courses and content. And so what I'm thinking is this aspect of the course, the mindset portion, I can apply to other courses as well. I have a friend in Vancouver who is creating her sales course, right? So that could be applied to her course as well. And in the longer run, what I really want to do is create transformational workshops for entrepreneurs. So when I'm well into my business, that's really what I want to do. I want to have like workshops full of like hundreds of entrepreneurs and create transformational boot camps for entrepreneurs. That's like my, I would say my 6-year plan. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel really excited for you.
Thank you. And just out of curiosity, because it sounds like you're really into the personal development world, or you've been doing personal development you have your own experience with personal development. I can feel.
Yeah.
What has been that journey for you, and what has been your experience with like coaching, personal development, and that kind of stuff?
I wouldn't know where to begin the story. So I don't know if I mentioned it to you in the first call, but I live in Vancouver, and when I first arrived here, I hated this place.
Really? No.
So much. And I was living in like a cupboard, basically in a high rise, like in the middle of downtown, with loads of other people living in this tiny apartment. There were no windows, nothing. I was literally just like going to work, coming home, and like kind of being trapped in a box all the time. The place where I was working, and still do sometimes, and I still would if it were actually open, is a float center. It's flotation therapy.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
So I would go from being like trapped in a box to then being trapped in a box. Just, even though one box is incredibly liberating, the other box was not liberating in any sense.
Yeah.
And it really like crushed something inside of me. And it felt horrible to be here. It felt horrible to have this, I don't know, like a sense of feeling trapped, a sense of feeling imprisoned in a way. And I've always been very free. Like I left the UK back in 2012 and just went wherever I wanted to go. I spent nearly a year walking across Europe, just heading from England to Turkey, basically. And I just wake up every day outside, check where the sun is so I could pick where southeast is and just walk that way, because I know that would be eventually towards Turkey. So it's just completely free. And I've always kind of lived that way socially as well. I'd say mostly. I had a lot of social anxiety as like a teenager and young adult. But once I got to that point, I was very, very free. And along that journey across Europe, I would find lots of communities along the way, which were like kind of self-sufficient communities, offering their own kind of form of education for the people in those communities. And everybody there was like a teacher and a student of everybody else. And I just found it to be really beautiful. And their sense of community was incredible. You know, the strength that they had from their community was amazing. The interaction, like the engagement between each other, and the love they had for each other, because they were all giving to each other. You know, it was really, I'd not seen anything like that before. I'd heard about things like that, but I'd never experienced it. And I just like, that just hit me in the face. It's like, I need to like be part of this, or create one of these, or I need more of this in my life. And essentially what it is community. And I'd started to play with it a lot more when I moved to Japan, and started creating groups, or a group through Meetup, which was just getting groups of people together and doing kind of like team building like games to get people feeling a lot more at ease with each other. So we just play some games on the beach, get people having fun, send them off in little teams to do things so they can bond within their team. And then once you've kind of broken through, like you've had all those icebreakers and people know each other quite well, you can sit down and do some more serious work, I guess. People feel a lot more open to share about what they do, what they're interested in, what they need help with, or how they want to help other people. And that process was a really powerful thing for me. And it's something that I want to continue to do. And I guess you could say, emotional or mental instability that I experienced here in Vancouver in the beginning, just like demolished a lot of that inside my mind. You know? So I started to think like, what can I do to put this back together? You know, so first of all, I had to move out of that place, and now I live in an amazing place. Nice. I had to find where I could be part of the community here. And I started reaching out to some friends who I knew were parts of different kind of groups. Started going to a lot more events, a lot more social events, a lot more events that had a purpose and things that I was interested in, and they were usually related to personal development, or kind of like optimization in a sense, optimization of yourself, so physically and mentally, in terms of what you do for work. And a lot of the people I'd meet through there were just the conversations you have, and sharing the books that you've read, and sharing the programs that you've been involved in. That was really helpful for me. And I got set on this path in a sense where it was about a year ago. I started Jordan Peterson's Understand Myself questionnaire. It's like a questionnaire of the Big Five, personality questionnaire. Just out of curiosity, like I was just like, I wonder what this would say, you know. And I rushed through in like 20 minutes and did all 100 items and just clicked through like, yeah, I agree, yeah, I don't agree, all of this. And I didn't really dive into the report until, I guess, half a year later, maybe. And I looked at it and I was like, this doesn't sound like me at all. I don't really know who this report is about, you know. And if I had given it to somebody, they would have said, yeah, this doesn't sound like you at all. You know, I was trying to put myself in other people's shoes of how they might see me, and I couldn't see them agreeing with this report, you know, just from the way that I present my behavior. So I thought, like, maybe I somehow just lied to myself, or maybe I just didn't know myself, you know, and I thought that I did. I've been on a lot of like meditation retreats and like life journeys in a sense, and spent a lot of time with myself. And I was like, how can I not know myself by now? You know? So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing again. But this time I'm going to do it in a completely different way. And I started it months ago. I still haven't finished it. So what I'm doing now is I take each item from that list. Say if that item is like, I get angry easily. Just take that item, and then I write all of the life experience or evidence I have of my own experience in the last 6 months. Because I think personality changes anyway. So I just like minimized it to 6 months. I was like, what are all the stories I have? What are all the things I've experienced that are for and against this particular statement? And be as brutally honest with myself as possible, because nobody else is going to see it really. Which isn't true, because I share it with a lot of people now. And that process in itself was really therapeutic. I started to learn a lot more about myself, and kind of simultaneously, almost, I became part of a men's group, which is very similar to what you do with groups of people. It's just about being in a group that you can share whatever with, whatever it is. If it's like a great win, or if it's one of the most horrific experiences of your life, those people, I mean, nobody there is a therapist, but those people are just going to hold that space and just going to listen to you. You know, they're just going to hear you. They're just going to witness you. And that's been really powerful, to first of all have a community, and then second of all, that community be a community that is, they might not agree with you, but they accept you. And you build trust and respect through that. Even if you don't like somebody, you still respect them, because they're willing to be completely vulnerable, and they're just becoming more and more, and you're becoming more and more your authentic self. And that kind of spills out into your normal life. You know, the more you practice these, the more you practice being vulnerable and authentic, and the more you actually spend time looking at your own stories and releasing them, the less kind of power they have over you. You know, you release those thought patterns, and it also makes you a lot more open to then sharing them with people that you think might not respond in a great way. It just gives you this kind of buffer, because you're like, I know there are people who accept me for who I am, so why would it matter if you don't? You know, I'm loved, right? And so at this point where I'm at, I kind of share everything with everybody, to whether they like it or not, you know. And I find it hilarious to do that. I really enjoy. A lot of my friends would say I can make things quite awkward for people. I love getting into very deep conversations with people and kind of talking to them about how they feel about particular things, or why they think they did a particular thing. And and I would have these kind of conversations like in a bar, where people generally don't have that kind of conversation, but it's like the first thing I'll go to, rather than small talk. And now it's even easier for me to do that. I feel so much more comfortable in doing that. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. I probably missed a few things out, but I do a lot of reading in these areas. I come from I studied psychology at university, so that's kind of my background, and the things that I read now are much more of that subject, in a sense, on the subject of people, I guess.
It sounds like you've been on a long journey of figuring yourself out, or really understanding who you are and where you're coming from. And it sounds like you've really been putting the work into coming to a place of being at peace with yourself.
Yeah, I have nothing's published online yet, but I've been doing a podcast with a group of people for months now. I don't even know how long. And that kind of writing activity that I was telling you about, we do that as a group now. So the four of us or somebody else, like a guest, comes in and then joins in. And it's just a space where we can release all of those stories that we have. So there's a lot of like releasing of shame, a lot of releasing of guilt, and a lot of love, and a lot of like accounting for your own self-critical bias by doing it with people. I find it really important. And I would love it if one day everybody that's involved in that is comfortable enough to release it online, because I think that's kind of the ultimate release.
Yeah.
I don't care who sees this. Just let it go completely. You have to force yourself to let it go. I think it's a really powerful thing to do.
I love that. Yeah, definitely. And what's your bigger end goal? Like you asked me, because I mean, you've talked a lot about community, and you talk about, you're in this men's group and you're doing these interviews to, for people to be able to share and just have a space for people to share what they're up to. And you talk about your podcast, like it sounds like community just fires you up. It sounds like it's something that you're passionate about, you believe in a lot. So with that in mind, what is your big and like not your big end goal, what is your bigger goal for the future?
Yeah, community definitely energizes the hell out of me. Speaking to people energizes me, and hearing about what other people want to do with their lives, when other people get excited about what they're doing, I just get really excited too. I'm like, shit, I really want to help. Like, I really want to find the people who can help you do that, because I think it's amazing. It's very similar to what you're saying about empowering people, helping them find their true power, be in their power. So they're kind of like running themes underneath it. But what I really want to do is create a community, a physical community space that people can use in a way that I was talking about earlier, where you know that whatever ideas you have, whether it's like a personal thing or if it's a business idea, or if you just want to like learn something or teach something, or if you just want to go and hang out with people who are really like clued in and working towards something productive and creative and meaningful, I want there to be a place where you can do that, and you know that everybody who's there has that same mindset. So you can go there with any kind of business idea. You're like, this is what I'm doing, I'm great at this part, but I suck at this bit, who wants to help me do it? And there's like 20-30 people there who are like, yeah, I want to get on that with you, and they can start figuring out how they work their personalities together to get on it.
That's so cool. So it sounds like you want to create a space or a community that people know they can always rely on or come back to, whatever they're going through, whatever they're up to. They have this community of people who have the same mindset, as people who are ready to help, that are always going to be like there, right?
And that's essentially what this is for me. This is a kind of a virtual, like dipping my toes in the water a bit more of that. So having these sessions with people, I get to hear what you're doing. I get to hear like why you do it, like why it motivates you so much, and how you feel about it, how you feel like it's going to help people, why you think it's so important, really, and things that you found difficult along the way. And then if I come across somebody else or somebody gets to see this, and it kind of twigs in their mind, like, oh, I could help this person this way, or they want to contact you for collaboration, or anything that comes from it in terms of connecting with other people is what drives me, really.
Yeah, I love that. That's very inspiring. It just gave me butterflies in my in my mind and heart. No, I love that. It's totally. Like you said, like when I can feel the passion in your words and in what you're up to, and it fires me up. I love that.
Right. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you as well, definitely. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Again, like, I can tell how fired up you are as well about my plans and what I'm up to. And yeah, this conversation lifted me up.
Yeah, I fell asleep after I got home from work today. I fell asleep on the sofa.
You did.
And I woke up at like 6:30, like, oh, I have to go and sit in front of the computer. And then I sit here, I start talking to you, and I get so much energy from that. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks for that.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I'm actually often in Vancouver, so next time I am, I'll definitely shoot you a message, and if you want to for coffee or something, if the coffee shops are open at this point.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'd love to kind of see how things develop for you too. That would be great.
Awesome. Yeah, likewise. Yeah, I'll definitely keep you posted with everything, and regardless, I'd love to keep in touch.
Right. Do you have a website or anything?
I do, yes, that I never go on and I never give out. But I'll definitely send it to you after this chat. I'll send it to you in the shaper messages.
Awesome. Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Nino.
All right. You have a great